We will not negotiate. We will not compromise on the basic rights of the Iranian people.
This is the man at the center of Iran's historic agreement on its nuclear program, Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif. Iran agreeing to restrict its nuclear activities in exchange for a partial lifting of sanctions. But Tehran says its ultimate goal is a permanent solution that would allow it to pursue a peaceful program.
Nuclear weapons have no place whatsoever in our defense doctrine.
But there are skeptics.
What was concluded in Geneva last night is not a historic agreement. It's a historic mistake.
And many Arab countries, in particular Saudi Arabia, are worried Iran is simply trying to buy time. In response, Iran's top diplomat is on a charm offensive in the Gulf region. So, can he build bridges with Iran's Arab neighbors? Will he attend the Syria talks in Geneva to end more than 2 years of killings and destruction? And what is really behind Iran's overtures to the West? You'll find out as Iran's foreign minister talks to Al Jazeera. Mr. Mohammad Jawad Zarif, Iran's foreign minister, thank you very much indeed for talking to Al Jazeera. Iran's nuclear program is an issue. Many people in this part of the world say this is a red line. The Iranians should not acquire nuclear weapons because this is going just to make this an explosive situation in this part of the world.
We share that view with them. Iran does not seek nuclear weapons. We do not believe that nuclear weapons will increase our security. In fact, we believe even the perception that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons is destructive of our security, detrimental to our security. We are against nuclear weapons based on religious doctrine, based on strategic consideration, based on ethical considerations, and based on political considerations and legal considerations. So for us, nuclear weapons have no place whatsoever in our defense doctrine. I believe all of us in this region need to unite against a nuclear program that has been a threat to this region. We have all shared this view since 1974, that we need to establish a region free from all weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East. Now, the only regime in the Middle East that has both nuclear as well as chemical weapons and continues to divert international attention, not only from the fact that it is a blatant violator of the NPT and all other international instruments on weapons of mass destruction, but also it's a violator of the most basic human rights of the Palestinians. It tries to divert attention from its inhumane policies.
You're referring to Israel, and Israel has described your deal with the P5+1 as an historic mistake.
Well, it shows their intentions. If this deal is to make sure that Iran never produces nuclear weapons, which is the aim of this deal, and it's an aim that we share, why should they be worried? Other than the fact that they have been trying to use this smokescreen in order to evade and, in fact, divert international attention from their atrocities against the Palestinian people, their daily violations of the most basic tenets of international law, and the fact that they remain the single most important security threat to this region and to the world.
Let's talk in specifics about the deal that the interim deal that you signed with the P5+1 in exchange of relief from sanctions. Your ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, was quoted as saying that the implementation of the deal will start by early January. What are we going to see by early January? More intrusive inspections, monitoring of the sites? Could you just further explain to us what we're going to see?
Well, the deal is rather elaborate. It's an action plan, in fact. I'm not going to put a spin on it. I think the plan of action stands on its own. It's written in plain English, so people can read it. People do not need to interpret it. It's clear. I think it is clear that Iran will continue its enrichment in both Fordo and Natanz, at 5%, and Iran will continue construction work at Iraq. Iran has agreed not to do certain activities that fall within the scope of this timetable and this plan of action.
Well, you know, your interpretation of the deal itself says, President Hassan Rouhani said that this deal recognizes our nuclear rights. Foreign Secretary John Kerry said, no, it doesn't say so.
Well,
we're talking about two different interpretations by the end of the day.
We're not
it's
talking,
such a delicate issue.
We're talking about putting political spin into the deal. It's very clear. It says the deal will enable Iran to fully enjoy its rights under the NPT. And twice in the 1990 and 2010 review conference, which is the only reliable source for interpretation of the NPT, it says that the international community should respect the fuel cycle choices of the members of the NPT, and fuel cycle includes enrichment. So it's a very clear situation. Now, the United States has a different interpretation of the right itself.
There were reports that the deal was not only the result of intense negotiations with the P5+1, but also secret back channels between you and the Americans in Oman. You deny these reports?
No, they were not secret back channels. We had discussions with the Americans on the sidelines of 5+1. There were extensive discussions, and these discussions produced this deal, in addition to the very serious discussions we had within 5+1. So what I'm saying that Oman, in fact, has played a significant role in the past with regard to clarifying positions of the United States and Iran. His Majesty the Sultan of Oman paid a visit to Iran when he also used the opportunity of his meeting with the Supreme Leader in order to clarify the American positions on this issue. And that role we have valued greatly. But what has happened has been a good number of negotiations within the 5+1, on the sidelines of the 5+1, in order to reach an agreement.
Many people are wondering, what is it that which prompted Iran suddenly to go for this deal? Because under former President Ahmadinejad, it was a totally different rhetoric. The West is trying to undermine the basic tenets of the Islamic Republic of Iran. We're not going to go for a deal with the West. Suddenly, there was this breakthrough. Is it because the sanctions were biting deeply into the economy, or from a political perspective, the architects of Iran's diplomacy are saying, you know what, we've been undermined for some time, and it's time to reach out to the West and try to show the world that we are genuine about starting a new chapter?
Well, you see, in Iran, we have political elections, popular elections, and the people choose governments. They chose President Ahmadinejad 8 years ago. They chose a different path this time around. And that election provided a historic opportunity to us and to the West in order to try to address this issue. We're not talking about sanctions. The effect of sanctions has been twofold. When sanctions started, Iran had less than 200 centrifuges. Today, Iran has 19,000 centrifuges. So the product, the net product of sanctions has been about 18,800 centrifuges that has been added to Iran's stock of centrifuges. So sanctions have utterly failed in that regard. On the other hand, the people of Iran blame the West for restrictions that have been imposed on their livelihood, on their ability to buy medicine, on their ability to finance and purchase food items from abroad. And they have blamed it squarely on the West for its attempt to put pressure on the Iranian people because they have tried to exercise their right, and they have resisted pressure and intimidation. Iranians are almost allergic to pressure and intimidation. They respond negatively. Now, it seems to me that the West is trying to take advantage of this historic opportunity. We have a new government in Iran with a different type of foreign policy, with a different approach to foreign policy. Our tenets of foreign policy have not changed. We will insist on our rights. We will not negotiate. We will not compromise on the basic rights of the Iranian people. But we believe that this can be achieved best through constructive engagement. Now, the window of opportunity is a limited window. I believe the West needs to acquire the trust of the Iranian people. There is a great deal of mistrust in Iran vis-a-vis the West. They believe that the West has applied double standards, has tried to intimidate and put pressure on Iranians because they tried to exercise their right, and they believe this needs to be changed.
I see your rationale, but at the same time you have others saying that at the same time we would like to see Iran delivering on the promises it made. You know that now you will be scrutinized by everybody on this planet.
We have always been scrutinized.
And exactly. And in a way, they would like to find the tiniest evidence that Iran is in breach of the interim deal. Isn't this something that puts extreme pressure on Iran?
No, we have nothing to hide. They've been searching Iran up and down, in and out, for the past 10 years. Probably more than they have searched any other country on the face of the earth. And they have not found a single evidence of diversion of our nuclear program into anything but peaceful purposes. So we're not worried. We know that our program is transparent. We know that our program is exclusively for peaceful purposes. So we have no problem. We have nothing to hide. We believe that the international community will find for itself that it has been basically its energy, its resources, and a great deal of money, because these inspections require a lot of money. All of this have been wasted on an attempt pushed by a possessor of nuclear weapons outside the framework of NPT, with most Security Council resolutions that it has not complied with. I'm talking about the Zionist regime, Israel, and it is in fact diverting international attention, wasting international money, creating a smokescreen, fear-mongering, in fact trading in international fear and blackmail in order to advance its illegitimate policies and practices in this region.
Mr. Mohammad,
so I think we are not in for a surprise. The international community is in for a surprise.
I see your point. You refer a lot to Israel, but you know at the same time that there are many Arab countries which are also of the same view that, you know what, we don't trust Iran, and Iran's nuclear program for us is a real issue.
I believe at the end
and I think you've read most of the reports emerging from different neighboring countries.
I believe at the end of the day, our neighbors in GCC came out with a statement in Kuwait welcoming the agreement. I welcome their sense of realism and their attempt to address the realities on the ground rather than anxieties. I believe what we have heard has been spontaneous, sort of emotional reactions, but the total outcome of the consideration of our friends in the region has been positive. It continues to be Israel that continues to do everything in its power in order to derail the process and in order to prevent it from implementation. Our friends in the region have nothing to lose. Our friends in the region have nothing to fear about. This agreement will only strengthen our security.
Coming up, I'll ask Iran's foreign minister if he's willing to reach across sectarian division to find a solution to the war in Syria.
Only on Al Jazeera America.
I lived that character.
Go one-on-one with America's movers and shakers.
We will be able to see change.
Gripping, inspiring, entertaining. No topic off limits.
I'm like, Dad, there are hookers in this house.
Exclusive conversations you won't find anywhere else.
These are very vivid human stories. If you have an agenda with people, you sometimes don't see the truth.
To watch new episodes of Talk to Al Jazeera, check your local listings or visit aljazeera.com.
This week on Talk to Al Jazeera, we're talking with Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif. You said that you seek joint cooperation with the Saudis for regional stability, but apparently in your trip to the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia does not seem to be on your agenda for the time being. Is this a sign that relations are still strained?
I said that Saudi Arabia is an important country in our region. We believe that Iran's relations with Saudi Arabia are important. For Iran, our relations with our neighbors are the utmost priority for our foreign policy. Now, I made a decision to come to the region immediately after returning from Geneva in order to brief our neighbors about what has been accomplished in Geneva and the fact that what we have done in Geneva can only help the entire region and is not against any of our neighbors. That decision came very late, and we are still arranging a couple of other trips that I have to make to the region to complete my tour. So it's too early to say whether the fact that I've only visited 3 countries means that our relations with Saudi Arabia is strained. I hope to be able to arrange a meeting in Saudi Arabia within a reasonable period of time.
The reason why I ask you this question, because I've been traveling extensively in this part of the world, which is a predominantly Sunni world. And let me tell you this, the perception in this part of the world is that Iran is a destabilizing factor. Iran is trying to promote Shia Islam. Iran is not really a good friend. There's this deep mistrust about Iran. Are you on a mission to try to win hearts and minds in this part of the world?
Well, I'm not in a mission. We have a foreign policy which has a strategic pivot in this region. And we believe that we need, all of us, need to cooperate with each other to, in fact, contain the spread of sectarian divide in the region, because we believe sectarianism is dangerous for the entire region. Iran is certainly not interested in promoting that. In fact, we have talked to everybody from the very first days of assuming office. I visited Iraq, and the core of my discussion with all Iraqis, both Shia and Sunni, Kurd and Arab, was the need to contain the sectarian divide, because we believe that is a fire that can engulf the entire region and beyond. And we believe that is in the interest of every single state in the region, as well as all the peoples of the region, to build on our commonalities. And we have a great deal of commonality. We share the same religion, we share the same history. More importantly, we share the same geography. We are neighbors. We have very similar interests. Our interests cannot be divided. Our security is indivisible. We either have security for all of us or none of us will have security. So these are very firm commitments that Iran builds its foreign policy upon, and I believe we want to promote that type of thinking and mentality, not the remnants of Cold War mentality of zero-sum games.
But you know, Mr. Foreign Minister, reality on the ground is quite different. When you talk to officials in this part of the world, particularly this part of the world, they will tell you, you know what, we've seen the Iranians undermining Sunnis in Iraq. We've seen them promoting Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are totally opposed to this notion of maintaining a very stable region. How do you respond to those accusations?
Have they told you that we have also supported a very Sunni Hamas movement? Have they told you that we have stood for national unity in Iraq? Our relations with every group in Iraq, including Kurds, who happen to be majority Sunnis, and Sunnis in Iraq, are excellent. Iran supports regional stability. Iran supports resistance. These are our policies, and they go across sectarian divide. It is unhealthy and, in fact, dangerous to try to describe Iranian policies in sectarian terms. I believe this is not in the interest of peace and security in the region. I invite all my friends in the region to join us. We can work together. We can help each other. We can contain the threats of violence and extremism that are raging in our region. Those threats do not recognize sectarian lines. Those threats those extremists have attacked as many Sunnis as they have attacked Shias. And it is important for all of us to work together in order to contain the wave of extremism in our region. It's a common threat. It's not a threat directed against one or another group within the Islamic world. Our differences are very little. What joins us is by far greater than what divides us.
Mr. Foreign Minister, the sectarian divide has never been more pronounced than it is now, particularly in places like Syria. And Syria is a place which has been stoking this or straining relations between you, and let's be very specific, and the Saudis, Qataris, the Emiratis, and the Turks. Is there any way where you can bridge this divide when it comes to Syria, for example?
I think we all should work to end violence, to bring about political resolution to this tragedy that is a shame for both Sunnis and Shias. It's a shame for the Islamic world. It's a shame for our region. We have to work together. We have to come to the realization that these divisions will not help resolve the problem, that creating divisive tactics will not present a solution to this problem. Trying to seek a military solution, either from within or trying to invite outsiders to intervene militarily in Syria, will not resolve the problem. In fact, there is no military solution to the tragedy in Syria. We need to bring all the parties together. What we can do, the future of Syria can only be decided by the Syrians and the Syrians alone. What all of us can do, and I invite all our friends to do the same, is to help facilitate a dialogue among Syrians with a view to finding a political solution and with a view to ending the violence in Syria. Extremism in Syria will harm all of us. Extremism in Syria cannot be contained to Syria. Our friends in the region will be the first targets and victims of extremism, as our friends in Pakistan were the first victims of Taliban extremism. We all need to realize that past mistakes should not be repeated. We all need to work together. We all need foresight. We all need to have a forward-looking, future-oriented outlook. Let the people decide their future.
Still ahead, would Iran attend a peace conference on Syria? I'll ask Tehran's foreign minister.
Protesters are gathering
There's an air of tension right now.
chanting for democracy. This is another significant development.
We have an exclusive story tonight, and we go live to...
You said that you'll be happy to go to Geneva peace talks if invited. The Geneva peace talks will take place in January. What kind of assistance can you bring as Iran? Can you force, for example, the regime of President Bashar al-Assad into major concessions, for example?
Well, we believe that the Syrian people have to decide this between themselves. We can only facilitate, we can only bring home the fact that there cannot be a military solution in Syria, that there needs to be a political solution, and the ultimate political solution is through the ballot box for the Syrian people to decide under appropriate circumstances. So what we can do, if invited, is to help. Even if we're not invited, we have serious interest in having stability in our region. And that is why, invited or not, we will contribute to finding a peaceful resolution of this unfortunate crisis.
To be invited, you have to overcome a major obstacle, which is to convince the Syrian opposition that you are a genuine mediator, because for the time being they're saying that Iran has been providing President Bashar al-Assad with financial, military assistance, and even sending fighters. Therefore, they cannot be mediator in any future peace talks.
We are not going to convince anybody. If they want to invite us, we'll be happy to attend. If they don't want to invite us, we will not beg for an invitation card. If they do not invite Iran, they do not invite Iran to their own detriment. Iran is there to contribute to a peaceful resolution of this crisis, and I believe I will leave it there.
You know, Sir Mohammad, Jawad, Zarif, that the ultimate goal, as stated by the Americans, the French, the UK, and many Arab states, the ultimate goal of Geneva talks is to lay down the foundations of a transitional government with full executive powers, which means that it's going a government that takes over and Bashar al-Assad is going to step aside. Are you okay with that?
It's for the Syrian people to decide. I do not believe that any power outside Syria can decide for the Syrian people. It has been this type of mentality that has prevailed and has prevented a peaceful outcome to this crisis. They should allow the Syrians to sit together and find a resolution. They should only facilitate the resolution and not set conditions for a resolution.
Mr. Mohammad Jawad Zarif, Foreign Minister of Iran, thank you very much indeed for talking to Al Jazeera. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having
me. It will be a pleasure.